My name is Rola Danab. I'm an English teacher for grade 6 and English coordinator for cycle 2, grades 4, 5 and 6. As an English teacher for teaching English as a foreign language, I always think of what's new, interesting, beneficial and effective for my students. One way I'm thinking of is the classroom video to encourage them to learn, to research and to speak at the same time. So students might feel shy sometimes when being corrected by the teacher while speaking. Videotaping will give them that chance to listen to themselves, their own mistakes, and at the same time correct themselves. So I'm thinking also of going even farther and asking them to listen to native speakers such as reporters on the BBC News or the CNN News. This way they will be familiar with the English accent and the English language more than often. As you noticed, today we're not in the classroom as usual. We're in the media room. We're going to watch TV news, which is the BBC News, or sometimes we can watch the CNN News. While we're doing this, because we're going to make a newsreel about Mount Vesuvius. Okay? We're used to make a PowerPoint presentation or write an essay or make a research by the end of every unit. But this time we decided to make something different. Okay? So the first thing that we have to do is to watch the BBC News for at least 5 minutes daily. It's either we can do it together in the media room at school, or you can watch at home just for 5 minutes daily. While watching this news, please, you should concentrate on the accent of the reporters, on the facial expressions, what they do, how they act, and everything. Okay? You study the character itself. Later on, you'll go through the internet and search for information about Mount Vesuvius and what happened when the mount erupted. Okay? Then, when we come to class, we have to sit in groups of 3, okay, to write the scenario of the movie. Because we will have 2 reporters and 1 cameraman. Okay? For the time being, let's watch the BBC News for a few minutes to take some idea about how you should concentrate and what you should do while watching the TV.
But for the first time, those with larger bank deposits were made to pay a high price. Their holdings were heavily scalped or taken away entirely to help pay for closing one bank and propping up others. Later in Robertson's report, we'll hear from the country's finance minister, who says
every time we watched a newscast, we used to make a classroom discussion to draw students' attention on important issues they need to take care of while videotaping their own videos.
West of Indonesia. Ukraine's interim Prime Minister called the death of an army officer a war crime. He died after his base in the Crimea was stormed by armed men. Let's get more of the crisis in Crimea, one international body that's refusing to recognise Russia's annexation. The Secretary General of the Alliance, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, is in Washington, where he's been discussing the situation with the US Defence Secretary Chuck Hagel. He tweeted this picture. Meanwhile, 15,000 of NATO's troops are training in the Arctic Circle this week in an exercise that was planned before the crisis.
Have you noticed something while watching the BBC News?
I noticed that the reporter changed the tone of her voice.
This means that sometimes she speaks in a loud voice and sometimes she goes down. Okay? What about you, Wasim?
Yes, I noticed that the reporter doesn't always move, it stays in her place and only moves her hands.
After collecting information about Vesuvius volcano, students sit in groups and write their own scenarios.
Okay guys, we'll try to do a test shooting, then we will shoot it.
Volcanoes are supposed to...
Yes. You didn't say good morning, we are here shooting from HPS.
Good morning. We are here shooting for HPS. Volcanoes are the most dynamic nature forces.
It's natural, not natural.
Students are shooting for their newscast, 2 reporters and a cameraman. The 4th is the director, as I mentioned before. At certain times, students refer to their online dictionaries on their phones to check pronunciation and accent. In spite of the fact that they really got tired, they kept on shooting. They enjoyed filming their own videos.
Using the video technique wasn't easy at all. Students were not familiar with the way they use the camera, with the way they have to write the scenario, the script, the editing. So at first it was a bit difficult for them. But later on, they got more and more involved and attached to the whole technique. They asked even to use this technique to enhance their writing skills. They got more and more interested in listening to the CNN news and to the native English speakers on Disney and on other English language speaking channels. So I think always searching for new techniques to enhance students' way of learning is really effective and beneficial to meet with the students' needs in the future.